Hi, everybody, it's Josh with Talk About Trek, and today we're going to talk about the Battle of Betazed. The Battle of Betazed is an untold tale of the Dominion War, and I was kind of unsure of where I wanted to go with my next book. As I said in the last video, I'm at TNG number 36, and 37, the look of the spines is completely different. So I'm just going to hold off on that for a minute, and I decided to just sit down and look through the collection and just kind of read whatever jumped out at me. And this was something that I'd always been interested in, but never had a chance to sit down and read, so I figured now's your chance. And I am glad that I did. This was just a very kind of fun little story. Just an interesting little kind of look into one of the things that the Enterprise was doing during the Dominion War, which is one of those things I think that a lot of people, wonder about. Something I always wondered about, at least. So, uh, it is a Deanna Troi focused book, but it features a wide variety of other characters as well. And honestly, I think that the focus could have been more on her. But it did kind of feature kind of a little bit of a wide cast of characters, including a new character that I have not been familiar with, this Commander Vaughn, who I guess is a character who has appeared in some other DS9 books and some things like that. So his character was very interesting, so I'm looking forward to kind of reading more about him in the future when I'm able to kind of dive into those DS9 books. And I guess also just this made me want to read more Dominion War stuff. And I do have the Tales of the Dominion War, which is like a collection of short stories, so that may be on the horizon too. But for now, we'll focus on the Battle of Betazed here. And this is written by Charlotte Douglas and Susan Kearney, and it was published in, I think, 2002. Yep, 2002. And this was, I guess, kind of a collaboration work between those two authors, and then also Marco Palmieri, who worked with them to kind of come up with this story. And just it was an interesting story that they wanted to tell, because basically what they were saying is that in, what was it? I think season 6 of DS9, they just mentioned that Betazed has been taken by the Dominion. And then the next time we see. Oh, my goodness, excuse me. The next time we see Counselor Troi in Insurrection, she's not concerned about this or doesn't bring it up. So it seems that something has happened. So it's fun that they get to tell this little story about how Betazed was freed. And I think it's a well done and interesting story. So let's go to the back here. Oh boy, they write a book on here. In the darkest hours of the Dominion War, as the Federation's downfall seemed ever more certain, Jem'Hadar and Cardassian forces conquered Betazed, the homeworld of Deanna Troi. Their victory sent shockwaves through the Alpha Quadrant and put the Dominion within striking distance of Vulcan and/or Teller, and possibly Earth itself. To secure their position in the very heart of the Federation, the Cardassians began constructing Station Sentak Nor in orbit of Betazed. The station is to serve as both the seat of the Dominion's occupation and the site of the horrific experiments by Cardassia's foremost exobiologist, the infamous Dr. Krell Mozet. With Starfleet's forces spread too thinly and the ongoing struggle to retake Betazed outright, the USS Enterprise, along with some old and new friends, was deployed to carry out a dangerous and desperate plan. But no matter what the outcome, the consequences could alter Betazed irrevocably, forcing Deanna Troi to choose between her world's survival and its very soul. Whoa, that's a beefy back cover. They really say a lot there, but they actually don't give away too much of the story itself. Itchy, sorry. So that's not too bad. The cover itself, I forgot to find out who did it, but it's pretty interesting. You got some Jem'Hadar soldiers, I think the station in the back, and a nice Counselor Troi with her black SOB uniform on, with her phaser rifle, which was pretty cool. So, one of the other interesting things that I enjoy about this book, before I jump into the full rant here, is that the Cardassian characters that it brings in are existing characters in the lore. So the Gaul who is in charge is none other than Gaul Lamech. And if he looks familiar to you, it is because Gaul Lamech was in the two-parter of TNG Chain of Command, and he was in charge of like the Cardassian fleet that Captain Jellicoe and Riker were working against while Picard was off, looking at the four lights, So Gaul Lamech now is kind of in charge of operations there and there in Betazed. So, and the other part that I thought was interesting too is the exobiologist Krell Mozet, and he is actually from a Voyager episode where the Doctor is trying to get find a cure for something. So he's looking up this and he creates this holographic version of this Cardassian monster, basically, to help him find that. So Krell Mozet from that Voyager episode is a kind of a lead character in this book here. So very cool that they brought those two in. So again, before I just jump into the full spoilery rant, the Battle of Betazed is just a fun little adventure book. It's nothing too crazy, nothing too deep. You're not... Basically, you're just getting a kind of a fun little story with these little cameos thrown in there. And an interesting look, too, I guess, at the people of Betazed, which I think was like the focus of the book, was just kind of how they were going to take this next step, And again, like they say on the back cover, fighting for their lives or their soul. And that's something that the authors were saying as well. So it's kind of like, how much are they willing to sacrifice, to save their planet? So just a very fun book. And again, just interesting to see what's happening with the Enterprise during the Dominion War. So I would definitely recommend it. As I recommend every single book that I talk about on this channel. Read every one of them. Read this one. And then go back and read some more. Alright, anyway, the Battle of Betazed starts out with the prologue where you have a young Bajoran escaping, trying to make his way to Starbase 19, escaping from the conquered Betazed. So he makes it to Starbase 19, which is under attack by the Dominion fleet. And as he's there, he says, I have to get this message to Starfleet. We have to get it out there right away. This is Betazed's only chance to survive, basically. And they decide, okay, they put him into escape pod and they send him out. They shoot his message off in subspace, and hopefully someone's going to get it. And but before anything can happen, or before you kind of find out what happens, his escape pod is destroyed, and he's killed. And Starbase 19 and basically most of the 12th Fleet is wrecked in that encounter as well. So just things are going very bad for Starfleet in the Dominion War, and this is just another big hit that they've taken. So now they are at Starbase 133. We have the Enterprise E going under some repairs. They don't say why. There's something that happened at Rigel, so just kind of some previous battle or something. So they're undergoing some repairs, and they get a secret mission from Starfleet, and they get this from Commander Vaughn. And Commander Vaughn is a new character for me, but I guess is a previous beta canon character who's appeared in some other DS9 books. So I'm kind of looking forward to reading more about him. But he's an old kind of grizzled commander who always wants to keep the rank of commander so he can kind of stay low profile, because he's like a special operations officer. So he's kind of running in secret operations and things like that. So anyway, he is there to give them this mission, and specifically to Deanna, who's going to be a big part of this. And the mission is the Betazed Betazed. The Betazoid resistance has requested that they get this awful mass murderer whose name is Hent. I hate this name. Hent Tevrin. I want to call him Trent Hevron. Hent. Anyway, Hent is a Bajoran mass murderer. A Betazoid mass murderer who most people don't know about because they kind of kept it hush hush. Basically, he found a way to kill people with his mind bullets. So he was a very powerful telepath, and he was able to find a way to kill people with his mind, and killed his parents and his doctor and quite a few people before he was captured. And they put an inhibitor in his neck to cut off all of his telepathic abilities. And they come to Deanna with this because she, as a kind of a young student, spent some time in the prison area there as like one of the prison counselors. And they give the book kind of gives like a little bit of a look into the past where she goes and talks to this guy, and she talks to this guy for 4 months. And at the end of 4 months, is basically determined that yes, he is a psychopath. There's nothing that we can do, and like no real progress was made to do anything to, rehabilitate him because he's just actually crazy. So, and now the Betazoid resistance is calling on this guy because they feel that learning his ability to kill people with minds is the only way that they can free their planet. So Riker or Troi is outraged at this, of course, and at the thought of kind of what this secret would do to her people and her planet. So you have some nice little scenes where kind of Riker is talking to her and Picard is talking to her, and they're kind of playing the role of counselor to her. And then you also get to see a little bit of a look at what is going on Betazed, and it is not looking good. The resistance is kind of this very small cell, which is in this volcanic region, so they can't be actively scanned. Of course, Deanna Troi is there, and they are kind of falling into desperation. They have small children there. There's a plague that's going around that's affecting people. They have trouble getting water. They have trouble getting medicine. They have trouble getting food. So just they kind of paint this picture of things getting worse and worse and worse. But of course, they're all remaining strong and kind of fighting against the Jem'Hadar. So, and then you have a little bit of time back on the Enterprise where they kind of let you get to know Commander Vaughn a little bit more, where he puts Troi through this kind of intense back and forth fighting session. So very good stuff there too. And again, I want to know more about this character because just a very interesting little side character to bring in. So again, he puts Troi through several combat drills just to make sure that she's ready to go hand to hand with the Jem'Hadar if necessary. All right. And they, okay, so now we're about 6 chapters in, and this is when you get your first look at the enemies here. And Golamek is on Sentek Nor, and of course there's a Vorta there. It's a female Vorta named Laran, and Dr. Krelmozet. And this guy is he's very annoying. Basically, his only concern is he wants more Betazoids so he can run more experiments and keep doing whatever sick, twisted thing he's doing there. And Golamek is just basically wanting to maintain the security of the station and retain command of, Betazed, and he's kind of fighting against this guy. And the Vorta and the Founders are kind of on this Krell-Mozet side as well, because they want him to be able to uncover whatever great scientific breakthrough, he's trying to do. So, so now we have a fun little cameo here. Who shows up to help and assist in this mission? None other than Worf and O'Brien and the Defiant, and even Ensign Nog there, the comm there. So the Defiant comes in. You have a fun little reunion there with Worf and O'Brien and everybody. And the Defiant, with its cloaking, is going to be the ship that's going to take Troi and her team, which consists of Dr. Crusher, Vaughn, and Data, to the planet Dorona, which is the prison colony planet or wherever, where they're keeping the Mind Bullet guy. So Trent Heverin there. All right, so that's kind of part one. The Defiant and their crew's going to go there to take care of getting this guy and getting him back to the Resistance. On the other side of it, the Enterprise's mission is going to be to go to Sentak Nor and blow it to hell, with the help, of course, of the fantastic engineer Miles Edward O'Brien. So I love that O'Brien has a part in this book. I think that was really cool that that was in. I'm glad that they brought like Worf and O'Brien in. It was kind of like they had to really for this story, just really just like to give it what it needed. I think so. Now, man, I took a lot. Look, my wife got me this fine new pen for our anniversary, so I took these fine notes. Look at all these notes. Oh my god, I got a sticker and everything here. Anyway, so if you excuse me, my fine notes are so tiny. But anyway, the Enterprise and 3 Saber-class ships arrive at Betazed. Basically, kind of jump in and surprise them. Take out a few of the larger ships in the fleet already. And then the idea is that they need to get to the station so they can beam aboard their team. And their team is going to get to the main computer and set this thing to blow. So, and the team that they're sending aboard is going to be Riker, O'Brien, LaForge, and then I think some security detail as well. So they're able to do that. They're able to get close enough to the station, beam them aboard. So you've got a few little fun action sequences, space battles, and they're able to get aboard. And O'Brien, of course, knows right where to beam them so that they're kind of undetected. And like the whole time, it's funny because Gul Lamek is like, "Come on, we got to do something," and this Krell Mozet guy is like, "Where do I want? We need more Betazeds," and it's basically all his fault that everything goes wrong for Lamek. And Lamek, if he just had his way, he probably would have did everything right, and everything would have worked out fine, but just was completely waylaid by this scientist, and then, the founders and the Vorta wanting to get whatever information he had. But anyway, everything works out perfectly for Starfleet. They're able to beam in, take out a couple of guards, get access to the computer, where O'Brien is able to work his magic, get right in there. And there's kind of a funny sequence where Riker asks him, "How did you get all these codes?" And he's like, "Oh, from the same guy that does my pants." So I love that. And anyway, just everything works out perfectly. They set the self-destruct, they shut down the comms, they shut down the station. It's like a perfect mission. However, then they find out that there are thousands of betazoids on the station, and the place is going to blow up in about 15 minutes, and there's nothing they can do to stop it. So they need to find a way to get all these betazoid prisoners and people off of the station. And they contact the Enterprise, and they're able to do that. And they're able to get over there just in time and get everyone beamed up with some serious fun space action scenes. And they have 1,000 betazoids, and they were only able to do that with the help of Dr. Mozet. Basically, what happens is, in the end, when they're kind of confronting them in the final lab, of course, the Vorta escapes and his personal escape transporter or whatever, and she gets out of there, and leaving Mozet there to be captured. And they basically give him a choice, either get blown up on the station with all of your research, which you love, or tell us the code to get everyone safely out of here, which he does, and they get everyone safely out of there. So they get thousands of betas rescued, and in the process they can kind of see what this guy is doing. And Mozet is basically attempting to take the telepathic ability out of a Betazed and put it into a Jem'Hadar. And in the process of doing this, he's killed hundreds and hundreds of Betazeds and hundreds of Jem'Hadar, and is really kind of not any closer to getting this done. So it's kind of an awful situation that's going on there. But again, that's what the founders were looking for, was this ability to have these telepathic Jem'Hadar, So, so that's kind of everything that happens on that side of the story. And it all kind of works out, like I said, just perfectly for Starfleet there. It's a very well executed plan. They lose one of the Saber class ships, I think, during the assault. But other than that, it turns out to be a perfect success. Sentak Nor is destroyed, and Golomek and the Vorta or whatever have fled. So now, back on Dorona, Data, or Worf has beamed Troi, Crusher, Vaughn, and Data down to the surface, and they are kind of taking the disguise of Bajoran field workers, or I keep saying Bajoran, Betazoid field workers, and they make their way towards the prison area after kind of talking their way through the local Jem'Hadar. And they do that by pretending that Data and Vaughn are kind of like imbeciles, and they're just trying to get their way back to their where they work. So they make their way to the prison place, and they're able to kind of talk their way inside because Counselor Troi knew the prison guy from before. So once they get inside and they talk to this guy for a little bit, they tell him what the plan is, and he's opposed. He's like, "No, I don't want to do this." And they say, "Hey, we're going to do this with or without you." And they go and they meet Hent Tevrin. And Hent's like, "Oh, you want my help, huh?" And he's very excited about being able to use his ability again. And they let him out. And as soon as they go to let him out, the prison director, Director Lanolin, says, "I would rather him die than be released." And he tries to shoot him. And Vaughn jumps in the way of the beam and takes a shot and basically saves this guy's life. And then they knock out the prison guy and they get out of there. And they but at this point, the Jem'Hadar are kind of onto them. The other guards of the prison have set off the alarm. The Jem'Hadar know something's going on, so they kind of make their way up into the mountains. But they're being slowly surrounded by hundreds of Jem'Hadar, and with no other choice, they have to let this guy use his mind bullets to try to take out all these Jem'Hadar. So they have Dr. Crusher pull out his inhibitor, and this guy is thrilled to death to put this into action. And that's exactly what he does. He just kind of walks out to the mouth of the cave they're hiding in, and then he uses his mind powers to kill like all 100 of them. And they all die screaming in horrible pain too. And like Counselor Troi can feel all of it as well. After that, they Data and then Hent decide to go outside and just make sure that there's no other people there. So they go outside and they kind of going to clear up the area, but they don't come back. So Troi has to go out after them, and she follows their trail up the mountain, and when she finds Data and Hent has Data with a phaser rifle held to him, and reveals at that point that in addition to his other mind powers, he has high-powered telekinesis. This is kind of a silly point in the story, because I don't think any telekinesis could do this. But anyway, he basically was able to control and kind of make Data do what he wanted with his high-powered telekinesis, and brought him up here. But Counselor Troi can tell that there's something wrong. He's not acting right, and he's not just afraid of, getting caught or going back to prison. There's something more. So as he's kind of freaking out, she makes her choice on what to do, which is to shoot through Data and hit him, because she knows that Data will be fine. So she takes the shot, pew, right through Data, gets him, takes him out, and it's then revealed that basically this guy is dying. Once they took that inhibitor out of his head, his telekinesis powers were too much for his brain, and he is dying. So before he dies, he calls for Counselor Troi, and at this point they are back on the Defiant as well. The Defiant has come back and kind of beamed them back up. This guy calls for Counselor Troi, and right before he dies, he puts into her brain all of his kind of thoughts and memories, and all like the terrible murders he did and all that, but also how he did what he did. And then he tells her to go to hell, and he dies. So, like, geez, that's awful. Anyway, so she knows now the secret, and she's kind of left with this big problem of, do I give this terrible weapon to my people? What's it going to do to my people? That kind of thing. So, just very interesting. And then at the end of the book, they're right at the point where she has to decide if it's time to kind of give up that secret or not. But it's then revealed that, well, basically they kind of find out a weakness of the Jem'Hadar, and one of the weaknesses was, and one of the reasons why this guy's experiments didn't work, is because their brains weren't wired to handle this emotional overload. So they deduce that it could be possible for the Betazoids to project their emotions on the Jem'Hadar enough to render them unconscious, so that they can kind of round them all up and put them in force fields and take back the planet. So that's when they have to choose. They have to choose, do we take this path or do we take this path? Now, the path of them using their emotional overload could cause many Betazoids to die, because it's going to kind of overload them as well. However, the path of them doing the killing thing will not kill them, but will change their culture, forever. So they choose, well, they have a vote, of course, they do a vote, and they choose to do it the empathetic way. Anyway, they choose to project these powerful emotions into the Jem'Hadar, so they kind of do this coordinated effort all throughout the planet, where they get their most powerful telepaths together, surround all the different Jem'Hadar camps in secret, and then hit them all at the same time with powerful mind bullets, And it works perfectly. They're able to take them out with the Jem'Hadar down. They take out the remaining Cardassians fairly easily, and the Betazoids are able to take back their planet. But at a terrible price. Over 40% of the people that were doing this died in the process of doing it. So they were able to take back their planet, and they were able to do it in the way they wanted. But in doing so, they lost 40% of the people that were doing it. So it was at a great cost, but again, they were able to kind of maintain who they were as a people. So very good, very interesting. I like the ending. I like how they chose to kind of keep who they were as a people. I never thought that they would actually go through with training them to kill people with their minds, because that's just against what they are as a people. So very interesting, very fun book, and I was glad to have picked it up and read it. So if you're looking for some more Dominion War fun, pick up and read The Battle of Betazed, because you're getting it right there. So as always, everybody, thank you so much for spending some time talking about Trek here with me today. Live long and prosper, and we'll see you all for the next video. Bye.